For those of you here that are joining us here for the first London CTOs event, and for those that don't know me, my name is Barry Cranford. I'm one of the organisers of the London CTOs. So I'm not a CTO myself. I run a recruitment company called RecWorks. So at RecWorks here, we've been on a mission for about the last 12 years to prove that recruitment can be a power of good in the industry beyond just getting people jobs, and especially around like mentoring, learning, and supporting people in that space. So put simply, if people want to learn and people are happy to share, then we're happy to make those connections. So a few examples of what we've done. We've run over 500 events in various different tech communities, graduate space, Java, front engineers, and conferences. We do a lot of mentoring introductions, and obviously the London CTOs itself. So this is another good example. We've been organising this for almost 10 years, since 2011, and we've organised just over 100 events now. It's all powered by recruitment, so the only money we make comes from recruitment, the only revenue we get in. So if anybody out there is interested in hiring, either now or in the near future, then get in touch, let us know on LinkedIn or however you'd like to. Anyway, on to today. I'm going to hand over to Sheetal now. For those coming across Sheetal for the first time, she has a background in digital business transformation and strategic change. She's recently founded the Agile transformation consultancy, Agile World Associates. And she's going to be speaking today about a new tool called the Propel Business Canvas. And she said it's designed to be a workshop, and this is more of a walkthrough. So bear that in mind. And with that, I'll hand over to Sheetal.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's keeping safe and healthy during this time. It is a bit of a crazy environment for us all at the moment, and I'm guessing, you know, we've all experienced what we learned yesterday, called a situation called aporia, where we're in a state of puzzlement, where we just don't know where we're going. So with that in mind, what I have been doing is I've been thinking about the whole idea of lockdown and what we must be going through, and you know, how we could actually potentially help ourselves when we come out the other side. And as a result of that, I sat down with my colleague and we were like, okay, what can we do to actually help and support businesses going forward? And this was something that came about from this conversation. So I'm going to just share my screen, so bear with me. And I hope I share the right screen. Always right, so I end up sharing my messy screen as always. And it's always the other way around. So bear with me. Let me know, can you see my screen okay, everyone? Perfect. Right, okay, so yes. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Propel Business Canvas, and it's basically a look into how we can actually build out action items based on delivering projects, delivering products, or ultimately, you know, figuring out what we're going to do on the other side of lockdown. And this actual canvas was designed and built as a result of the lockdown, so it's been inspired by that. A little bit about me. Nice to meet you first. I'm Sheetal, and I'm a huge Agile enthusiast. I love knowledge sharing. I fail a lot. I learn just as fast. I question everything. Continuously always looking for feedback and improvement, and I love to plan everything, and I mean everything. Here's an example of a barbecue I planned last year. Everything's all around Post-its and Sharpies, so this is just a story of my life, and you probably saw behind me as well, constant plans, constant Post-its and Sharpies. So quick one, why are organizations going agile? Now, I think a lot of people, I'm assuming that a lot of you are familiar with the concept of Agile. So it's speed to market, getting products out there quickly and early. Innovation, giving an idea, giving you room to innovate, reducing risk because you're not delivering a big bang project. Transparency, product thinking, and cost saving. So the other thing organizations might need to go agile is COVID-19. So I'm sorry if I'm upsetting anyone here, I don't mean to, but ultimately a lot of us have been forced to change. thanks to this wonderful or not so wonderful virus. So here's the problem right now. We are starting to ease back out into the world, so we're going to have to leave the house. Maybe catch a bus, and lo and behold, we're going to have to go back to the office, or even catch a tube. That's one thing I'm certainly dreading. And this is how I'm sure a lot of us are feeling right now. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? Are we going to, how are we going to get out of this on the other side? And it's so nice working at home, isn't it? I think I love the idea of, just taking it easy, rolling into the office, i.e. my desk, and then kind of wrapping up and not having to commute on a long 3-hour journey home. So how do we solve this, and what can we do to solve other things? By the way, just feel free to interrupt, and if you've got any questions through this, I'm happy to answer as we go through this. So what I'm going to share with you is something that no one has seen yet. So you guys are the first ones to see it. And so, yeah, it is top secret, but I'm happy for you guys to talk about it afterwards. So you are allowed to talk about it later. And here it is. This is the Propel Business Canvas. So I'll just give you a few moments to just look at it. So you've got 12 quadrants. And then, as some of you may be able to see, it's inspired by the Lean Business Canvas that was created by Alexander Osterwalder and Ash Moira. It's these guys, I think when I first was introduced to the Lean Business Canvas, I was actually blown away. I was like, wow, this is just incredible. This is amazing. And it does bring outcomes, but there are times where you find yourself using it and going, okay, which way do I go now? And what I wanted to do was actually find a way to adopt the canvas, but make it so that you can actually have a series of action items on the other side. Okay, is that too much information? Am I blowing your minds a bit? I hope not. I'm going to break it down for you. So there's 12 quadrants, so I'll walk you through each and every one of them. So the first quadrant is looking at what the problem is. That's the same as the Lean Business Canvas. We want to look at the problem. So without a problem, we don't really need to do much. I'm saying, you need something to solve, I would say. So we've got to define the problem. We think about the impact it has, but what I would say is that we should dig a little deeper, and we should actually consider different ways of how we can actually surface what the problem might be. So we can do that in one of two ways. We could approach things by asking the 5 whys. Here's an example. So we can look at the problem. What is the problem? I can't go to the office. Why? I might catch a virus. Why? There's a global pandemic going on. Why is there a global pandemic? There's a breakout of a terrible virus. Why? Because it's very infectious, and why there's no present cure. So here we go. You've reached to a point where you understand that the problem is here, not the fact that you can't go into the office, but the fact that there's no present cure for the virus, which leads to a trigger to find a solution to finding a cure. So that's one way of doing it. The other way could be a common marketing tool, which is the 5 Ws, which is a who, what, where, why, when. I added pips to it, so you can actually explore different ways of exploring the 5 Ws. So you could say who's impacted, or you could say who's the problem, or you could say who's got an idea, or whose prognosis is this, or who's got a solution to a problem that you may already know of. So here you can see that you can change and chop and change the who, what, where, why, when, and extend it to who's impacted, what is the idea, where is the impact, why is there no solution. You could ask questions in different ways, which will allow you to dig deeper to the problem. So I decided to choose impact. So here it's like, who's impacted? Your employers are impacted. What is the impact? Well, work is left incomplete. Where is the impact? Could it be the finance department? Many areas are impacted, and I would probably suggest that you surface as much as possible from this particular point. Why is there an impact? Well, revenues dropped. There's an economic issue going on here. And when did it happen? So when you kind of look at things against a timeline, or look at when things may have happened, it's easy to kind of find and get to the root of the problem as well. So this is another way of surfacing problems. The second quadrant is thinking about your people. You've got to think about your people, not just who works with you or who your customers are, but both. So think about your internal, who are your staff, even think about your cleaners and at C-suite level. I just realized I got a typo there, I apologize. Ask questions, listen to them, and capture what they're saying. And the same goes for your customers. That's people who are using your products and services. Those are your end users for your web applications or your mobile applications, whatever it is that your business is focused on. Think about what they need as well. So ask questions there and listen to what they've got to say. So you could ask similar questions. Certain questions could be, okay, what jobs need to be done? So that could be for an internal question, but I think equally you could look at that from an external perspective as well. What are the common complaints? Where can you add gain? What can you do to make things better? Consider things that they care about. So talk to your people and consider what they actually care about. In this particular climate, I would also say, what are their post-COVID-19 needs? Do we need hand sanitizer, for example? Do we need to change our shoes when we now go into the office? How are we going to manage return to work, for example? And are there any digital alternatives? So here's a traditional tool. I think this is from Strategize Consulting. This was actually developed by them, and this is called the Value Proposition Canvas. And you can use this in a workshop setting to actually capture details about your internal and your external people. So here you can see on the right quadrant, you've got the customer profile. So think about the jobs to be done, think about what's really painful, and think about what's going to make them happy. So what gains do they have in terms of delivering a certain thing, for example, returning to work? And then you've got the value proposition. So how can you make more gains? How can you relieve the pains? And what kind of products and services do we maybe have already at our disposal that we can actually start leveraging? Here's an example of one we made earlier. Sorry about the mess, and I'm sure you probably need to put your sunglasses on at this stage because it's quite bright. Yeah, so this is something we did around considerations of how can we ease ourselves back into the workplace, and this was from the employer's perspective. I can give you a few minutes to go through it if you want. 4 seconds. So that's an example of a value proposition canvas in the making. Then you've got the current climate. So that should be number 4, not 3, sorry. So in that quadrant, what you want to do is you want to think about where are you in the current work situation. So when you are returning back to the office environment, that could be, this is just one example, by the way, you can use this for many situations. So think about your people. What challenges are they facing? What challenges are faced overall collectively? Think about your processes. So make a list of all the processes that you're enjoying and sort of going through from an end-to-end perspective, and consider the tools and the challenges you're having with the tools. And then taking all that information, make a list of the outcomes that you're expecting. So start to think about what are you looking to get out of whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're building a product, what kind of outcomes are you looking for in that product? What challenges do you think you might face? And really go deep into, you know, looking at where you are currently and how you can actually plan a journey to get to that outcome. Here's one we made slightly earlier as well, so about people, processes and tools. Again, we focused on return to work. What does that look like? We're going to need a new team for cleaning. We might need to do some risk assessments. We may need engineers. We need some business risk executives to understand, you know, what risks are involved in all this in our current climate. What processes do we need to probably add to what already exists, or what can we turn off, what can we turn on, and looking at different tools to support the return to work. So that was an interesting one. With that in mind, we now get to a point where we've got a series of assumptions, outcomes, and ideas. Now, at this stage, you will probably at the point where you have ideas, inspirations, and a whole series of assumptions. what we need to do is actually go and prove and disprove those assumptions. So at this point in time, we think we've got an idea, we want to roll with it, but actually I would say hold back, test it. So look at ways in which you can actually experiment, go and do some surveys with your people, check back on some scientific evidence if you need to do that, host a lab test, so run some lab testing, build some prototypes, or also think about the past experiences. What have you done in the past and has it worked, and what could you do to take it forward? Is everyone still awake? I'm going to have a quick check. Yeah, okay, good. Right, so the next thing we want to do, this gets a little bit more complicated. We want to visualize the process. Now, as part of visualizing the process, you want to kind of capture what things look like end to end. We're just going to close this a second. So think about the people involved, consider the time it takes to get from one point to the next, and consider the opportunities where you want to reduce waste and streamline a process to get things moving faster. Because ultimately, where we're at in this present moment in time, we do want to get ourselves to a point where we can get moving. And I think the whole idea of this canvas is to find inspirations and action items that will get you moving faster. So it might mean that you look at your current situation, you look at your current processes, and you think about what things can you streamline. So you look for opportunities there. How do you do that? Well, there's a few ways. Here's one we made earlier. This is like looking at the end-to-end delivery of a B2B system. And here's one that's done properly. So this is called a value stream. And what it is that it's a high-level view of how you go from supplying products to delivering it to the customer, and the processes that work in between that. So here you've got a visual to say, okay, we've got some product and we need to get it to the customer. We've got the suppliers. We need to think about how frequently can the suppliers deliver products to us? And then also, what are the processes in the middle to get the product to our customers? And what is the frequency and how often can we reach our customers with the product that we're delivering? And what we're doing in between is we're capturing things like the data we need, the people we need, what are the delays and the timelines in between each process, any delays, any blockers, and what we're searching for are anything where you're losing time or you're wasting time, and really bringing that to the surface. And then you're also looking for key areas where there's value added, and then you want to hone in on that and see what you can do to improve the value added areas. And then you can also use something like this to innovate and improve and enhance the way you actually build and deliver a product, and how you can get it to the market. So it's a really powerful tool. It takes a while to put together, hence why it's workshop setting. But once you've got it, the clarity that you can benefit, the clarity you get from it is quite powerful. Another way you can do this, you can visualize your end-to-end journey. So in this case, we've got a legal user journey where there's a problem, and then someone's going to have to take some action, and then you can see the people involved, and you can go deeper and you start pulling out, who are the people involved. There's an individual, so this is from the customer side, and then you can see that there's an interaction between the consulting piece coming into play on this side. So again, people, processes, and tools. So you can see here something's happened and there's a need for action, help's been sought, there's been some consulting, and there's been some paper processing going on here, and it's going to then come to the other side. So looking at your user journey, so your user experiences, this is from the customer side. Look at it end to end. Again, see where you can streamline things. Next thing we want to do is we want to look at the cost structure. So ultimately, I think costing is quite an important factor right now. We're probably going to be looking at saving on costs in this particular environment right now. So we need to really think about what can we spend on now? What do we need to spend on in the short term? And also what is an ongoing expense? So this is where we're looking at the capital expenditure here. So immediately we may need to change things. So as a result of this change, we may need new equipment. We may need to still repair things. There might be something broken. You know, a number of things that you can actually surface as a result of this. The other thing is your operational expenses. So in order for you to operate effectively, what are you going to need to spend money on now? What do you need to spend money on in the short term? And also, what does the longer term view look like? Again, these are things that are really will really help you drive decisions in terms of the action plans that you're going to start surfacing now at this point. So once you've done the value stream, once you've done your user journeys or your experiences, you should start now. You should start to see actions coming out on the other side. And me being me, you'll probably see a whole bunch of post-it notes everywhere, all over a wall with loads of action items listed. Against each one of those action items, then you can add your cost structures to them as well. So that's how you would actually use a cost structure quadrant. Next, we look at the waste reduction. So now we have the end-to-end process. You've got a good idea of what it is you want to do, what you want to change. Dig deeper again. So look at your process and think about the things that take up too much time and what you could do to remove any of those sort of time-consuming tasks. You could potentially rate each step out of the process out of 10 and see where you're adding value, where you're not adding value, and look to remove anything where you're not adding much value, or you're finding that it's not potentially giving you a return of investment there. You can look for blockers. So as the good thing about the value stream, the customer experience, the user experience, all of these things will surface issues and you'll be able to find blockers in and amongst all that. And then look at how you can streamline things. So, you know, a good example could be where, you know, there's a lot of approval processes. You might need to go through stringent approval processes to deliver something and get it to the market. In this small climate where we are right now, we might need to move very, very quickly, in which case we need to pull away some of the approval strategies and focus and trust that there's one person that can actually make such decisions. So that's about waste reduction. And then what you're starting to get is changes and the impact it's going to have. So you have a list, you think about what changes you want to make. Now you've got that list, think about the impact and analysis that it's going to have. So for example, we'll say, okay, right, we're going to make a change, everyone's going to work from home. What impact does that have? Review it, think about it. Think about things that you want to see happen. So think about your outcomes and what that might look like and the impact that has. And then think about the action. So we're getting now to the point where we're ready to build a nice list of to-dos, action plans. But again, you know, think about what it's going to take to deliver that. Think about what impact it's going to have. Is it positive? Is it negative? Are we looking for strong impacts? If we are, what can we do to make it better? And then think about where we might be prevented. So what might prevent us from going forward? Classic example could be, we have decided we're going to adopt Zoom and we're going to roll it out across the board. How would we prevent the change? IT might turn on and say, no, it's not on the list of valuable tools for subscribing to. So you may have some blockers there. Bring them to the surface so then you can move faster in terms of mitigating them in the future. Then we've got the action plan. So now from the changes you're realizing, you can now start to make a list. With all the new things you need to do, think about all the steps you need to take and then look to initiate that change. So now what you're doing is you're at that point where you're ready to initiate and build a solution. You're ready to get things moving. And as a result, now you've got that list, you need to think about the how. So what I've got here is something called the skills and tools matrix. Here, you're looking at, okay, we've got a list, we've got an action items, we know what change is going to happen, we know what impact it's going to make. Now we need to think about how we're going to do it and how it's going to execute. What tools do we need? What assets do we need? What skills are we going to need to deliver those things? Do we need a developer, designer, project manager? Do we need an accountant? Do we need someone to give out tickets? Do we need to buy subscriptions? A typical one a lot of organizations have faced today is Zoom subscriptions and cloud cloud solutions, and also think about the costing as well. So go back to your cost structure and make sure that you've covered these particular elements as well. So I'm hoping that now you're starting to build a picture of the things you need to do in order to kind of start changing things and getting better and actually building up an action plan for returning back into the work world. And here's where you actually make it all happen. So build up your pipeline. So think about, you've got all the ideas, put it all together, list all the actions and prioritize them. There's a really good strategy called Moscow. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with that. Capture them, prioritize them using Moscow. That represents must, coulds, shoulds, and won'ts. So think about the things you will do, think about the things you don't want to do, and think about the things that are likely to block you as well, and just capture it all and then prioritize it. Then now you know who is going to be helping you do the work, allocate the work. So think about who's going to be implementing it and maybe consider timelines, because at this point in time, we're looking at delivering very quickly. So think about, how you're going to approach it. Are you going to do it in, a Kanban format? Is it going to be a daily thing? You're going to deliver it every single day and daily? Are we going to do it in 2-week sprint cycles? Or are we going to take the more traditional approach and actually do it in a waterfall model, for example? Pull your people together and agree on how you're going to make this happen. And then go and just implement it, get it done. And then always reflect back, always look back on the work that you're doing, and make sure that it's all reviewed. Yeah, I'm hoping that's hurting a little less now and that you're still with me. So that's it in a nutshell. And I've managed to cover it in half an hour, which is great. So just to recap, the first thing you want to do in your quadrant is understand what the problem is, dig deep. The second thing you want to do is understand your people and think about who you need to get things done. And because at the end of the day, without your people, there is no business at the end of the day. So you need to learn as much about their needs as you need to know about your needs as well. Consider your current climate. Where are you right now? And what changes do you need to make at this point in time? And start capturing that information. And then start to visualize it. I think visualizing is such a powerful way of creating goals, creating outcomes, and really knowing which direction you want to take. And also it surfaces information that you may not have thought about before, and it will also surface blockers as well. But bear in mind, when you visualize your process, it's an intense job. If you're going to do it through a value stream or a user journey or a customer experience or even an end-to-end delivery process, it takes time to refine. So keep it high level to begin with and then start to dig deeper as you go. But you'll find that it's a really powerful way of finding out what you need to do. Now that you know what to do, then you need to prove it. So, challenge your assumptions, challenge that list that you visualize, and challenge that journey, and challenge the way your value stream is working or not working end to end, and then find ways to actually sort of validate it. This is one way you will actually save a lot of time, money, and effort if you do challenge the assumptions, because you're going to go forward with a certain level of understanding of what it is you're going to do and what deliveries you're going to make. And again, build on those assumptions. And think about your cost structure. Think about making waste reductions. So get rid of anything that's not working. Don't waste your time with it, and try to be real about it. So again, now that you've visualized everything on your value stream, you can then start thinking about where are the delays and what can I do to shorten that delay. So think about that and really go deep into your stream. It's a great way to actually bring your colleagues and your teams together as well. The great thing about it is that it inspires brave decisions to be made as a result of it. So off the back of it, you may say, right, okay, A, B, and C doesn't need to sign off and approve X, Y, Z anymore. It's just going to need one person, because ultimately that's going to save a lot of time, and we're going to start trusting our people a bit more as well. So you don't need to go through several cycles of sign-off, for example. Thinking about the change and the impact, that will help you make stronger decisions. Think about your action plans, prioritize them, then consider who you're going to need, what you're going to need, and where you're going to find it, and what's it going to cost, and then plan it. So that is it in a nutshell. So there we go. That's your Propel Business Canvas. Did I talk too fast?
Thank you very much, Sheetal. That was cool. It's like trying to understand it all. Wow, there's so much to take in.
There is a lot to take in, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Anything in particular that came up along the way with that? No, nothing. Okay, I'd be interested. How long do you anticipate a workshop for this taking?
So I've tried it, and it takes 2 days. So it's potentially a 2-day workshop. And I guess it also depends on how much you know what the problem is already. So if there's something that you're experiencing as an organization at this point in time, you know you've got to solve it, or you know that there's a particular product you want to build, then you could probably fly through this in maybe a day, I think. Okay. It's worth trying. That's the challenge, but it has taken 2 days to do. The deep part is visualizing the process. That's the point where you really need to spend some time to understand what it is you're going to be doing end to end.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how it'd be very valuable to do with the team and with other people that kind of had, knew how to do this and walk through this. But great. Well, if there's no other questions from the team, was there anything else you wanted to cover or go into, Sheetal, with this, or is there anywhere that people can get you if they need to approach you afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, there's my email address. So we are available to host workshops for the actual Propel Business Canvas. As you know, it's a brand new product. So I will be building a web page where you can make bookings around it as well. So I'll be happy to share that on the meetup group, or just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to kind of like take you guys through it if you want to go through it in more detail, or if you've got a problem that you want to solve, just drop me a line.
I feel like we could probably do a session on each individual quadrant for an hour or so, and still feel like we're scratching the surface. It's such a deep topic. I know when I read the book by Ash, again, you sort of read it and you think, yeah, I know that now. I understand exactly what to do, and then you try and apply it, and you think, wow, where do I start? Where do I go? It is tough. So these things, yeah, but no, it's great. Okay, what I'm going to do now, we tend to do this at the end of all the CTOs events. So I'm going to hit the breakout rooms button. You're welcome to stick around, everyone, if you want to go into a small room. I think there'll probably be 2 rooms. So feel free to stick around. If you have to log off, obviously that's absolutely fine. But Sheetal will obviously be around in one of the rooms if you had any questions that you wanted to ask there. And if there's anybody that has signed up you'd like to be in with, then let me know. But other than that, thanks for signing up. Thanks for coming along. Thanks massively for Sheetal for going through that.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
The recording will be available, so I guess it's one of those things where you're going to have to watch it again and again and again to kind of really sink in and pause it, and then obviously email Sheetal's email address at the end there, so email her for questions. So again, thanks everyone. I'm going to hit the breakout rooms button now. You're welcome to stay, and if not, I will see you soon. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone.